What is happening, everybody? It is Tuesday. It is time to break down another Reignmakers slate. We're going to be covering PGA this week and a pretty good tournament this week. And we've got the Memorial and a loaded field. We've had some weaker field tournaments as of late, Eric. Not this week, because we've got Scotty Scheffler, Jon Rahm, Rory McIlroy, Patrick Cantlay, a lot of different studs to choose from. And that is why if you guys have not collected your starters pack yet for PGA Reignmakers over at DraftKings, click on the link below in the description box. That's going to direct you right to DraftKings. We get a totally free starters pack. You're going to get to choose the stud golfer that you want for this week. And Eric and I are going to give out some potential options here in a second for you guys to choose from. And you're going to be able to get a collection of cards that's totally going to help you build out a line. And it's completely for free. So no reason not to take advantage of that. Click on the link below, claim that starters pack. And also like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Eric, how are you doing, and how are you looking forward to the Memorial?
I'm very much looking forward to it. Again, there's a little bit of construction going on outside, but everything's good. Muirfield Village Golf Club, it's fantastic. It's Jack's place. The Memorial is as good as it gets. It's going to be hard. It's going to be playing firm and fast. It's going to be a phenomenal field. I mean, this is one of the golf tournaments you kind of star and highlight every single year. It goes in that same vein as the Players' Championship, where yeah, they're not majors, but they're damn near close to it.
And by the way, we got Vic David Figueroa is in the chat. He's saying, "What's up, Greg? Put the hat on." LOL. I know Eric hates it. Collect some tears. So here's the reality, by the way. Eric is not the only one who hates the hat. I also dislike the hat. And I can tell you that for last night, that was a very fun bit, but I know it would get old if it was brought back for more than once. So that was a one and done. A little PGA reference there. That was my version of a one and done. It is not going to be coming back, but I think for the short-lived appearance it had, I think it worked out, but I think we're probably done with it from now, but I enjoyed it yesterday.
Speaking of one and dones, I'm in a bunch of one and done leagues, and I haven't filled out a one and done for a month and a half because I missed the boat on all the Jon Rahm victories. I somehow played him at Torrey Pines where he was completely terrible. And then Scotty Scheffler, I used him in a golf tournament he didn't play well in. And with these fields now, if you don't have them win $3-4 million because of the elevated events, you're just screwed. So I had no chance. I haven't even filled out a one and done for a month and a half. I got to say, my life has been pretty okay. It's been nice to know that, hey, that's just a lost cause.
And how much money did you have invested in one and done contests this year?
more than I am comfortable saying out loud on this program.
All right. Never know your wife. I mean, I doubt it, but who knows? Maybe your wife could be watching this at some other point, and you don't want her to find out that you've been losing your money in one and done contests. But
it's a write-off. It's a write-off.
You know where you're going to make it back, though?
Reignmakers this weekend.
Reignmakers this week. Starting with, we're going to give everybody out, like I said. If you want to claim your starters back, if you haven't done that yet, and there's no reason not to, it's totally free. Who would be your stud golfer you choose from? It seems like the obvious answers would be between Scotty Scheffler and Jon Rahm. Is it one of those two for you? And if not, is it somebody else?
Yeah, it's Scotty Scheffler, because for some reason, I keep trying to fade him in single entry. I keep trying, Greg. It's not going well. It's been going very poorly this entire season. He is incapable of not being in the top 5 in pretty much every single one of these golf tournaments. Now, this weekend, there is a far greater chance that he doesn't completely burn you by not having his cards, but I think he's still the guy that you want to be starting off with. Now, Jon Rahm, he's been incredible as well. It's 1-2 in some capacity there, but just feels like Scheffler's playing all of these events too. I mean, he still showed up at Colonial. Love to see that. I think Scottish Open, you're going to be getting him as well. He hasn't confirmed that one. That's one that I'm really waiting for. We got a couple of confirmations on Scottish Open. Rory McIlroy going to be playing in that before the Open Championship. That's a now PGA Tour sponsored event that's happening the week before. That's in the Reignmakers schedule. So that's kind of what I do with the Reignmakers PGA stuff is I'm looking weeks ahead. I try to plan out when golfers might be playing, when it's going to be great to utilize and maybe buy them on the low, if they're not going to be playing on that weekend. So Scotty Scheffler 1A, Jon Rahm 1B for me this week.
And then something that I want to bring up, because I agree with you, by the way, and our projections bear that out as well. I'm going to throw these into the YouTube chat because we have totally free Reignmakers projections that are available over at stokastic.com, where we are going to give you the top golfer probability. So the odds of somebody being the top scoring fantasy golfer for Reignmakers purposes, top 5 probability. So somebody's odds of essentially being in the optimal Reignmakers lineups, and then also just some other, convenient metrics. We got the sportsbook odds and the probabilities we project for each golfer to make the cut. So I just threw that into the YouTube chat there. And what I was going to say there is we've got Scotty Scheffler, 9% chance to be the top scoring golfer, Jon Rahm 8.3. And like I said, that's 1A, 1B. There's a big gap between them and everybody else that we have. And then you get the next tier, Patrick Cantlay, Rory McIlroy. I want to get your thoughts on Rory, who was really struggling for a little bit, because it started with the Players, he misses the cut. The Masters, he misses the cut. Then the Wells Fargo Championship, he makes the cut, but finishes T47. So not really the best showing. But at the PGA Championship, we got a top 10 out of Rory. Is this a sign that he's kind of turned things around? And do you view him as somebody who we should consider amongst the elite top end golfers for this tournament this week?
Absolutely. There's no salary cap when it comes to playing Reignmakers. And I think in terms of which golfers you should be starting your packs with, we did go 1A, 1B, but I think if you're going to be purchasing one card in the marketplace right now, it's probably going to be Rory McIlroy for me. I think that going into this stretch of the season, we've seen him play so well during FedEx Cup playoffs, during Open Championships, during everything starting now at the Memorial, moving on until, the end of this PGA Tour season. I think there was something personally going on with him. I don't know what that would be. There's been some speculation that maybe it's something at home, other things of that nature. Rory McIlroy, all I really care about is what that golf game looks like. And I think everything that we saw at the PGA Championship is what you expect from Rory McIlroy. That's electric ball striking, 10.1 strokes gained tee to green. He even gained 1.6 with the putter, gained across the board in every single category. He got some work done that weekend before with Tiger Woods. Never bad to be getting some swing work and things in with Tiger Woods. That's kind of the benefit of being Rory McIlroy. Lots of benefits of being Rory McIlroy, but I think he's a phenomenal ad. I think sitting sub $20, it would not shock me whatsoever if he went out, set the world on fire this weekend, and then, well, you're looking at a $25 Rory McIlroy very quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at Rory right now, which you got Jordan, by the way, not Mike Lawrence, Jordan Klein producing for us today in the afternoon. And, nice to be spending some more time with our guy Jordan. And you see right now on screen, we're looking through some of the floor prices of Rory. $18.99 for the core is the lowest price you could find there. the rares available for as cheap as $97.77. I don't remember where his cores and rares were priced at the onset of the PGA season, but I think it was like 2x or so what they are now, if that sounds correct to you, Eric.
Does.
And we should expect the cards to be a little bit less valuable midway through the season, and especially after we're done with a couple of majors, than they were earlier in the year. But with that said, we've seen other golfers like Jon Rahm, like Scottie Scheffler maintain their card value. So I do think that Rory is like one or two good events away from really seeing a spike in his price heading into the final two majors of the year. And that kind of seems like what you're getting at as well.
Yep, exactly. That's 100% the way that I view it. And I can't say it enough. The FedEx Cup playoffs is going to be where you have the right combination of cards or you don't. You want to be playing an event with just 30 golfers and you want to have those cards because they're not only going to shoot up through the roof because people will want to play every single week, but you're going to have access to be able to play an event with just 30 players where it's very hard to make a poor lineup. And it's going to come down to some serial numbers, perhaps in some spots, but you can play all the best available. It's very hard for me to imagine a scenario where Rory McIlroy is not playing at Eastlake, and that is a track that he just dominates.
Yeah, so Rory is somebody who also stands out in our projections. Mentioned Scottie Scheffler, Jon Rahm. These are the top two golfers in our projections, and Rory's fourth right now. So it's still somebody who I think that we should be pretty high on for this week, and then also going forward. And this is as cheap as I've seen his cards the entire year. So Rory does not look like a bad stud to buy on the secondary market. But of these other high-end golfers, Eric, who else do you have your eye on? Because the other golfers in this tier, we've got Patrick Cantlay, Victor Hovland, Xander Schauffele, Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Jason Day, who's had a really nice season and got a win recently, his first one in a couple years. So of the other golfers that we have projected around here, who else really catches your eye?
It's got to be Patrick Cantlay because he has just such a good history here at Memorial. Now, he did get the de facto winner. That's what I'm going to call him in 2021. Jon Rahm was winning that event by, I believe, 7 shots going into Sunday, and he had to withdraw on Saturday with a positive COVID test. And Patrick Cantlay ends up winning that one. So kind of an interesting spot. But he also won this event in 2019. He has a first, a third, and a fourth in his last 5 appearances at the Memorial. How do you not look at that and think that you don't want all the Patrick Cantlay and all the land? I don't know. And I'm not the biggest course history guy. I don't think that I cite that nearly as much as other people around the industry. But this is pretty undisputable. Like, this is as elite of course history as you're going to run into. It's basically like Tiger Woods at Torrey Pines.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods at a lot of places, even at the Memorial.
And he is the golfer that we have projected third best in the field. The only golfers projected better in our projections than Patrick Cantlay right now are Scottie Scheffler and Jon Rahm. So Cantlay, McIlroy, that runs out our top 4. Those are the 4 golfers we have projected the best. Is there anybody who's outside of this tier in our projections this week, Eric, that you think could make it in? So we'll say anybody below Cameron Young. So any golfer that we've projected with a 2% chance or lower probability to be a top golfer. Do you think any of them are being overlooked and are golfers that people should be gravitating towards?
How about my guy Sam Burns pretty much all the time? He's such a boom bust quality type player. He's 37-1 at DraftKings Sportsbook as of this second. And you're going to run into miscuts. You're going to run into him playing terrible like he did over at Oak Hill. You're also going to run into him being able to play on par with some of the elite players in the entire game. Now, he came off of a decent enough play here this last weekend at a course that he's very comfortable with. But I think having seen this golf course a couple of times is definitely a benefit to a guy like Sam Burns. And he's just such a boom bust option. When it's good, it's really good. When it's bad, it's really bad. But that makes him such a high upside option that doesn't get priced like it. And he's gone out and won an event already this season, the match play. You kind of needed him for that one. That's for sure. I think this is another spot where I'm just going back to the well constantly with Sam Burns, and no reason at some of his current prices that we shouldn't be interested in. He's further down when you're scrolling too, which I always like because, well, people aren't just clicking the best available. But $8.50 for him coming off of last week. I liked some of the form. I like just coming off of a terrible week at the PGA and having him be comfortable, hit his irons well, showed up at Colonial. I think he's a buy again at a pretty iron heavy golf course this weekend.
Yeah, and like you said, and Jordan's got it on screen here. Core floor for Sam Burns, $850, and then the rares available for $36. So Sam Burns is not a very expensive golfer, and I bring this up every time we talk about Sam Burns, nearly every week when you and I are doing the show together. I have a handful of Sam Burns cards, and they have returned a profit for me because of our friend Eric here. So definitely appreciated. And another fan of Eric, Jamal Parker in the chat, who is, yeah, you can see he doesn't want me to talk. He just wants opinions from Eric, which, by the way, is more or less how we typically do these shows anyway. Eric is certainly more of the expert in the PGA field than myself. I just kind of look at our projections, tee up some questions for him. I know the general strategy of Reignmakers, and then I'll let Eric talk about some of the ins and outs of the golfers that he likes. But Jamal's a question for us. He is saying, should I pay up for all of the best players, or should he pick plays like fantasy? So one thing that's going to be really important to note about Reignmakers is there is no salary cap. If you have the access to a Scotty Scheffler, to a Jon Rahm, you're playing them. You're not fading them for any reason in this kind of tournament. But where I think this gets a little more nuanced is if he is not holding these cards right now, Eric, do you think they are good purchases at their current price in the secondary market, or are there better values you prefer for cheaper? To sum it up, do you think that the prices on Scotty Scheffler and Jon Rahm, we'll look at them right now, are good purchases at their current price?
Yes and no. I think that this is probably the most nuanced question that you could ask Jamal. It's a fantastic question. Mainly because you got to think about this in terms of how many events do we have left? It is now going to be June 1st tomorrow. We are running into 5.5 more months of utility. There's no events on the PGA Tour in December, but we're going to be running up through November with things for PGA Tour Reignmakers. And so what's hard is that a weekend like this is going to look eerily similar to a major championship, and it doesn't guarantee you getting up to best available to have everything there. And something I've talked about with our friend Jesse in a Discord that shall not be mentioned here necessarily on this show. But the main thing is that everybody has access to the same kind of cards at a price, and somebody is going to be paying for the optimal lineup every single week. It just is what it is. And so I'm more inclined for you to buy 2 or 3 of these studs and rotate through other players so that you're not guaranteed, because you're going to have to play, 3 golfers here or 2 golfers there, or you're going to have to buy things and exchange on the secondary market a couple of times to fill out a solid lineup every single week. But if you just simply pay up for best available, somebody else is absolutely going to be doing the same thing. And so I'm trying to detour a little bit and have 1 or 2. So Jon Rahm is somebody that I've kind of like planted my flag with this season, where he's going to be the guy that I have the most cards of. Scotty Scheffler, I've been fading, and it has gone very, very poorly. I think having those 2 cards alone, and hoping that you run into events where they play together, or in the events that only one of them is going to show up, currently the Scottish Open, you're going to have just one of the 2. Kind of strategizing that way, that's what really makes Reignmakers fun, is being able to try to look ahead to the schedule, put in the work that nobody else is going to put in, and try to come to some solid conclusions about how can I build out the best possible lineups week in, week out. And so to answer your question in the most long-winded way possible, try to find 1 or 2 cards right at the top that you love, find some intermediary cards that you can fill with this week, and then if they play well, those cards are going to go up in value. You can trade those in and then fill out your lineup the next week, so on and so forth.
And you can't go back in time and do this, but I really like how I played PGA. And also, I've only been playing at the core tier for PGA this year, but I've already returned money that I bought my cards for, where they've already paid for themselves. And if I wanted to right now, I could sell them and just
lock in profit.
And just lock in profit. But what I did, and what I recommend people doing for next year, and this is definitely something that it would work for football, it works for PGA. UFC is a little bit different because you don't get the same fighters fighting every week. They're only fighting, 1, 2, 3 times a year. But what I did before the golf season this year is I bought a handful of cheap cards of all of the top golfers at the core tier. And then I'm just playing the close to optimal lineup every single week. And I've just had a bunch of them where it's like, all right, I bought like a few Jon Rahms for like $40 a piece right before the season started. But some of those lineups have returned me $100, $150. And that's just in one individual week where I've had them pay off for, almost the entire collection. And then you just get some of the other weeks where now I'm just playing with house money and it's fun, right? I throw in these lineups. I don't really play a ton of regular PGA DFS because it's not where my expertise lies. But for this, I could just use the projections we have over at Stokastic.com, be like, hey, with the cards I have, which is a lot of the stud golfers, who do we project best for the week? And I've had a bunch of lineups that have paid out fairly well. I think my best lineup this year finished like 8th in the core contest one time or something like that. So that's what I recommend you guys do starting it next year. Now, for this year, I totally agree with what Eric said. Find a stud or two that you like. Maybe Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm. I think the price on Rory are terrific right now. So I would recommend Rory, maybe a Scotty Scheffler or a John Rahm, and then mix in some of the gaps with some of the other golfers that are projected well in our projections, which are free to use, by the way. So you just want to click on that link, bookmark it, and then go back to them and look at each week. And maybe you'll find a guy like, hey, you know, a Corey Connors, maybe he's undervalued one week, or Cameron Davis, and buy one or two of their core cards to build out lineups. I think that's a pretty good way to approach it right now. And it seems like we're on the same page.
Absolutely are. Again, if this were reverse engineering, we could go back because the schedule started technically in March. We didn't have Reignmakers PGA Tour until the Players Championship. And so everything we've been doing after the fact, it's been a little bit experimental for the last couple of months, but it's far enough into the season now where you're still buying top dollar for some of the players. So pick out one or two that you feel the most comfortable with and know that you're going to be rotating in other pieces. And plus, you know, you talk about playing the near optimal. I think that's the other way to look at it. You don't want to be playing the optimal every single week because somebody else has it and somebody else has it with better serial numbers than you do. It's going to be difficult, I think, long-term to just plug and play it that way. Now, when you start playing talk about the rare contest, that's where there's a ton of strategy because you can only play one core card and the rare cards are expensive. So you see so many Scotty Schefflers and John Rahms that are that core card for a lot of people. And so that's why they carry the price that they do, because they're just exclusively played in the rare contest like that. If you can get away from playing one of those on a given week and you can smash with your other core card, that can definitely give you some leverage too. But as I said earlier, Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm, they're basically as good of guarantees as what you're going to run into in golf since Tiger Woods.
Now, let's talk about one of my favorite questions to ask you every week, Eric. And you usually have a good one teed up. That is any long shot. So, you know, it's easy to identify Scotty Scheffler. It's easy to identify John Rahm as a top player that you want to be rostering this weekend. But who's going overlooked? Who's somebody that's way off the board that you think is live to win this golf tournament or at least finish towards the top and really make a difference in Reignmakers contests?
I've got two and they're sitting next to each other and I've teed up both of them. It's K.H. Lee, who I think has been kind of a featured player that I've talked about many, many times here, and Keegan Bradley. Now, K.H. Lee is $4.79. He's a bomber. Memorial is not short. You still have to be driving the golf ball far. The rough is long. You need to be in play. You have winners like Bryson DeChambeau. You have Patrick Cantlay, who's just all around good in every facet of his golf game. Rory, things of that nature. That's this kind of golf course. It's a big boy golf course here at the Memorial and lots of undulation. It's set up in the vein of an Augusta National. And I think K.H. Lee is just one of those players who just bombs it and is going to be ball striking above everybody else. And before K.H. Lee, Keegan Bradley's kind of also fit into that vein, but the putter has really changed for Keegan Bradley. He's 47th in strokes gained amongst this field in putting over his last 50 rounds. If you told me that coming in, I would have thought he had a couple of top 10s underneath his belt this season. He has one. He has a second at the Farmers, but the Farmers, Torrey Pines, we're talking a golf course that is also long, also demands really solid ball striking. And if we continue to get positive putting from my guy, Keegan Bradley, the ball striking's never in doubt. I think he's somebody that I'm just a little bit surprised. 23rd at the Masters, 48th at RBC, 35th at the Wells, 29th at the PGA. He's been knocking on the door. 2 top 30s in the first 2 majors of the season isn't anything to sniff at, but I would have expected the results to be better based on the putter. So I think he's a really nice buy low candidate and a nice little price, sub $6.
Yeah, both of them fairly cheap. Keegan Bradley, floor price there, $6. And then, like you mentioned, K.H. Lee, $4.79. By the way, if anybody's looking for K.H. Lee on the secondary market, it's actually Kung Hyun Lee. But if you see him in the top of the PGA leaderboards, you'll see K.H. Lee. But you're going to have to actually, the easiest way to search is just search Lee, and you'll be able to find his name on the market there. But
don't buy the Danny Lee because he's bad at golf.
Yeah. And I'm sure, how many Lees are there? Let's say.
Not that many this week. You could go to the full marketplace. There's Lee Hodges. That's going to be the other guy. It's definitely going to be Danny Lee and KH Lee. Those are your main two. Don't buy Danny Lee.
Yeah, and so also if you search Lee, Tommy Fleetwood will come up just because he has LE in his name there. But KH Lee, Kung Hyun Lee, that is the one that we are looking for here. By the way, if anybody's had any questions for us in the YouTube chat, I really appreciate the question we got from Jamal, because I do like to talk about some of the other general strategies about Reignmakers when we're doing these Tuesday shows. So anything like that people have for us, throw it into YouTube chat so we could talk about it. I always think that is a pretty good conversation point. The other thing I'd like to ask you about these tournaments, Eric, is there anybody at Memorial who's projected fairly decently, or the field might be high on, that you think is too popular this week, or you're just going to be outright fading because you don't like their chances to win as much as the public might?
This week is harder because you get the elite field. You get Jon Rahm and Scotty Scheffler and Patrick Cantlay and Rory McIlroy. Victor Hovland's been playing fantastic golf. I mean, he's just continued to be knocking on the door. Had a terrible finish to last weekend, which I'm kind of hoping mutes him in actual DFS. We'll see. It basically was a bad 4-hole stretch, and that's Hogan's Alley over at the Colonial. That's just a difficult finishing stretch. It definitely bit Victor Hovland. He went from like -6 to -2. And I think that in the box score, that's not going to look as good to some people. So maybe he's undervalued there. If I had to talk about one person that I think maybe is getting a little bit of steam based on the prices, it's got to be Xander Schauffele, just in the context of like, he's $17, and I don't know how many other events we're going to be getting Xander outside of majors. He has played Scottish Opens in the past. Again, I'm kind of waiting on some news there, and he's definitely one of the guys that you're penciling in for East Lake. But at $17, I still prefer for $1 more Victor Hovland, $4.50 more. I would rather get to Cantlay. And then there's some cheapies around him. The golf game just, I don't know what it is, because he's been a fantastic player all season long. Yet again, he has 8 top 10s on the PGA Tour. But then you get guys like Thigalo who just play a ton, 7 top 10s from him, and his cards are $7 less. So I think just because of a schedule where, he's been an elite player now for a while, and it doesn't seem like he's just playing some of these random events to go out and try to win a couple PGA Tour events here or there. He's still waiting to win his first major, trying to break through there. I think he might have a lighter schedule than some of these other top players, and that makes me kind of shy away just because of the price.
No, fair enough. I think that definitely makes some sense there. And couple minutes left to go here. So just making sure, no more questions that we have in the YouTube chat. We got. Can we
talk about one super insane cheapie that is somebody who wasn't even in the field earlier that I'm very high on this week? Aaron Rai is $1.64. Aaron Rai is starting to put it together on the PGA Tour. And when you talk iron play, that is his calling card. Off the tee, that's his calling card. He's yet another ball striker with the putter gets hot. And so you're talking about a golf course here at the Memorial. Muirfield Village is just super undulated, very difficult to putt on. But for somebody who's now lost strokes gained putting in 5 straight events, I think it can be a favorable thing simply because he's the kind of player who can gain 5, 6, 7 shots with the approach. He's been positive in every event off the tee since the Farmers, besides the AT&T Byron Nelson, which I really don't care about. That was just a shootout fest, and he didn't go low and got out of there. But I think Aaron Rai is very live on this golf course. He's somebody that I've kind of been penciled in coming from Euro. He's an Englishman. He's put himself in the mix in some great events. Last fall, I know he was in contention at the Houston Open. That was kind of a sweat with a ticket there. But I think Aaron Rai sub $2. If you want to just start with a complete cheapie, somebody who could just backdoor a top 10 for you, he's going to be somebody that I'm talking about for DraftKings Sportsbook purposes for sure. But here for the old Reignmaker streets, he is definitely a buy sub $2.
I think I just have one of, I think he might have been in my starters pack.
That's great.
Look through. Yeah, I think I either got him in the starters pack or he was one of the craft and burn options. That's something else too, is usually we get the ability to craft and burns of starters cards and 2 other cards who are going to be in the field for this week. That's not up yet quite for this week. But I
mean, Rai isn't even in our projections right now because he was a late add to this tournament yesterday.
Yeah, so I'm sure he'll probably be added whenever we do our next projections update. But Yeah, like you said, Aaron Rod, super cheap. There might be a lot of people who didn't even realize that he got added to the field, which is one of the reasons you could buy his cards right there for $1. Yeah, $1.77 as the lowest potential floor. Yeah, 177 looks like there. So cheapy to add to your lineup. Good call there by Eric. And final thing before we head out here, one golfer who's going to win this week.
I kind of was saving this one. I have this disgusting feeling, and Justin Thomas is sub $12 right now. We're talking about a guy who you could start your packs with. Do not start your packs off with Justin Thomas, but it's probably been one of the more disappointing PGA Tour seasons that we've had from an elite player in a long time, coming off 65th at the PGA. And that's an event that he holds dear to his heart because his dad was a PGA professional, his late grandfather, PGA professional. It's been brutal, and it's almost been all the putter. But if you get on a golf course that you're comfortable with, and they used to, 2 years or 3 years ago was during COVID, they played back-to-back events here where Justin Thomas put himself in the mix both times here at Muirfield Village. So I think Justin Thomas is just a player getting back on a familiar track like this, getting back at a place that he's had some success. He feels like a buy sub $12. I don't know what to make of some of the putting struggles, but it's been brutal, no doubt about it. I just expect it to flip at some point in time. It's been basically 2 years of bad putting, but if it were going to flip, might as well be at a golf course that he's definitely had success at before.
And that is going to do it for us today. If you guys have not done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want a totally free starters pack that you have not yet claimed from DraftKings, use the link below. It's free. There's no reason not to do it. Even if you're not sure what to make of some of the Reignmakers or you're not familiar with it, it's free and you have a good chance to win some money. So go check that out. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Everybody in the YouTube chat who left us questions, we appreciate you. Have a good day. Catch all our content later. We've got MLB live before lock tonight. No NBA games, going to be focusing on baseball. Let's check out our baseball content. Later, guys.